Dante's Inferno is a very interesting work. It is one of the first major works in one of the living languages. During the Middle Ages, the idea was to write in Latin, which nobody was still speaking in Europe at the time. Latin had already died. And what Dante showed is that you could write a work, a major literary work with philosophical discussions, scientific discussions, and so forth, but in one of the living languages, what we now know as Italian. He became the example that other great literary figures such as Chaucer imitated. And it's from Dante's example that the modern literatures of Europe really got started. The thing I really like about teaching Inferno is I mean, yes, it's a voyage through hell, but what you're really seeing is a kind of a psychology. I mean, what he's giving you is the way that people can be destructive and particularly self-destructive. The way that their actions have harmed themselves and harm other people around them. I'll be teaching Dante's Inferno as a 4-week course. In the first of the 4 classes, I'll be dealing with Dante's biography, the historical background that informs the work, and setting up the work. In the second class, we'll be starting the discussion of Dante's Inferno itself. The second of the 4 classes will be dealing with the upper portion of hell, which, as I said, are the lesser forms of evil: lust, gluttony, greed. These are areas of lack of self-control primarily. The third of the 4 classes will be dealing with middle hell, which is primarily dealing with violence or malice. And the last of the classes, we get to the very deepest portion of hell, which are the gravest forms of sin, namely deception, fraud, and treason. And so what we have is this overview of the nature of human depravity, going from lack of self-control to deception and betrayal. I became interested in Dante's Inferno, well, because my mother's Italian. She's from Florence. And, you know, as I was learning Italian, it's hard not to learn about Dante. But one thing that really piqued my interest was she was born in the 1930s, and she grew up in a working class neighborhood. And she said that there used to be a cobbler, a shoe repairer, who lived on her, or who worked on her street. And he would recite Dante from memory as he would hammer on the shoes that he was repairing. And I always loved that story because it really shows the impact of Dante's work on the living culture, the oral culture of Italy. You know, it's hard to imagine something like that with, I don't know, maybe Shakespeare or Milton or something, but you know, in Italy, everybody knows about Dante. And again, a cobbler of the 1930s, he wouldn't have, you know, had a university education. He would have learned that probably from the people around him doing similar things.